What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Dead Noise. I'm Chris, and thanks to the power of Zoom, I am here with a vocal powerhouse of all sorts and the frontman of the hardcore metalcore band Renaissance, Mr. David Benites of the Extreme Vocal Academy. How you doing today, sir?
What's going on? Really excited to be here. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for you and Dead Noise having me on today.
Of course. And this is one of the few interviews where it's kind of hard to prepare for and kind of hard to know where to start because there's just so many things I want to talk to you about and so many things going on in your world. But I think I want to start with the debut EP of yours of Renaissance's Born from the End. It just recently celebrated its 1 year anniversary. I believe it was March 29th it came out of last year. So, how has the reception been since then? I know you've had a couple shows. I got to see you at one of them since the release. So, getting to play these songs live in front of people that know the material more and to have it on Sirius XM's Liquid Metal rotation, how has the reception been overall so far?
It's been a very wild ride so far. It's been a very crazy year, and the anniversary just within these past few weeks was really cool to be able to celebrate here. I knew people would like the songs. I knew that we were building something special, and I had something really like powerful and strong in mind, really entering this process and really having Renaissance become a band and starting to play shows and put itself out there in this last year. The response has been phenomenal to the lyrics, to the music, to the overall presentation of everything. It's been really exciting having people get as into it and be as enthusiastic about this as I am is kind of one of the biggest things I've been noticing. And especially now that we've been touring more and getting out there kind of for the first time and meeting people and having people like yourself come out and see what Renaissance is all about, having people accept us with such open arms has been fantastic. So the response has been massive, and being on Liquid Metal as much as we have, shout out to my dear friend Jose Mangan. We owe so much to him and so much to the station, and we have really enjoyed being a part of that, and it's opened us up to an entire other market of people too. It's been amazing having listeners of this and people that love Born from the End kind of all over the place, from all walks of life, all over the world. It's been really amazing to see.
Yeah, I can imagine. And this wasn't part of the EP, but in the process of celebrating and while you were on the road, you also released the single Less Than Nothing, which at my show, not to brag, but I got to see the live debut of that song. So,
Yes, you did. That's right.
what was the overall message behind that song? And I know for a fact that that's a fantastic live cut. So, getting to see the audience reaction to that one in particular, how was that?
That was fantastic. And we've been able to do a lot of stuff like that now, being able to test out new material on the road and being able to bring new ideas to people in person has been really exciting, especially because this whole thing and everything Renaissance is and what we're doing is so new right now. Less Than Nothing was a really cool experiment because after we put out Born from the End and we were starting to play shows and seeing the reactions, we were kind of seeing the things people got the most excited about and the things that were the most fun live, and also what we as a band really wanted to be doing together. Because when the Born from the End process started, the whole band didn't super exist yet. All the pieces started to come together during that process, and even some of us kind of met really for the first time during some of the process of getting the music videos together, and as we kind of built the band and kind of fell in love with each other a little bit throughout that process. So once we really streamlined, like this energy is really vibing with us, we're feeling much more aggressive now. Like the thing that we feel really strong with and the thing that is working so well live and we're having so much fun with is just that really intense, punishing just power behind the sound and the songs that we have. And that's really where Less Than Nothing was born out of. And what the message behind it is a lot more personal to me too, in that it's about, on the broader spectrum, not necessarily forgiving everyone, and allowing yourself to feel that kind of like anger when people wrong you and trying to use that for something, not necessarily always like payback or revenge, but using that feeling. And then I definitely wrote that song from a much, much, much more personal place than I have a lot of other stuff in the past, and included a lot of kind of Easter eggs in there of like very personal things to me. So it felt really good to get that out. And the response because of that has been wild. People have connected with it a ton.
To that point, with all the personal Easter eggs that you put in there, did you have any people in your close circle, like family or friends, that like when they heard that song, did they like pull you over to the side and be like, "Hey, what's this about? What's going on?"
One or two, yeah, so some of them being in the band. There are some people that were kind of asking questions about that, but overall, it was just people feeling just like that sense of intensity and that sense of letting that rage out and letting you kind of process your emotions in that way and understanding like when to let yourself just move on from something and accept things and forgive and when not to, being really, really important.
That's a really good point. And knowing when to turn that side on and when to turn it off, that's a really
Yes,
important thing for a lot of people to know.
because there's definitely unhealthy things if you just never let go of anything.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Italian, so I have those tendencies.
Awesome.
But back to the EP, it's like five songs in the hidden track, if I'm not mistaken. My personal favorites are Hangnail and Witch Hunt, of course. What was the writing and recording process like for those two songs?
For Hangnail, it's funny that you mentioned Hangnail because Hangnail is another one that like leans more on the personal side for me and my own experiences, and that was also technically the first song that got written for the EP and kind of the first song that got written around this new age of what Renaissance is with our producer and one of our writers, JD, Justin DeBleek. He has been an incredible force behind what we do, an incredible friend to me. He's done so much work for so many amazing bands, including but not limited to bands like Motionless in White and many other friends of ours. And that was our first time writing together, and we actually did it like this, like over Discord. I wasn't there in the studio, and we were still trying to piece together what we wanted the sound of this band to be. And he came in with a riff idea. He came in with an idea for something energetic, something that moves, something that's powerful and yet has that emotional side to it. And I just sat here and like helped with the ideas and was just simultaneously like scrambling, like writing lyric ideas I was having at the same time, trying to just get them down before I forgot them. And that was the start of something beautiful. And we really took everything from there. And then from there, like I wrote also with Chris Wiseman, guitar player and extraordinaire of everything, with both Currents and Shadow of Intent. We wrote Labor of Hate and The Guilt Machine together. And between those songs and the songs that I wrote with JD, also another one being Witch Hunt, which was actually, oddly enough, like a random idea he had written on tour from when he was in Ice Nine Kills that he had done for something that he just always wanted to use with a band and never kind of found the right place for it to live. And then I had to come and take that. And we built the rest of the song around just that intense, really crazy, punishing riff that Witch Hunt starts with. So that's kind of where that came from and how JD and I have done a lot of writing together, sometimes from scratch, sometimes from ideas he has, and now from where the entire band that is Renaissance now will kind of come in with stuff and we all spitball things together.
That's so cool. And I'm so glad you mentioned working with JD too, because that was a question that I had because I've been a fan of JD since like 2014 when he was still a member of Ice Nine
Very
Kills.
cool.
And he's become quite the producer working with bands like Fit for a King, Motionless in White. The list really goes on and on. So I've talked to Joey from Varsity about working with him for their last album, Levitate, and he was like, he's a genius. He taught me so many things. And I know he also came up in the New England scene, much like yourself. Did you already have like a bit of a friendship with him before working on Renaissance music with him?
We kind of knew each other from afar, and we've had a lot, and I mean like a lot of friends in common, especially with how It's a very big scene, but it's the kind of thing like growing up in New England and kind of being where metalcore was born and being there for all of that and just like being a part of it. Everybody kind of knows everybody to a degree. It's impossible to not like be constantly running into each other or have been in bands with people that you were in bands with and like many iterations of that. But we didn't really know each other until we started the process of getting this going. And my friends in Fit for a King are even the ones that help to kind of bridge that gap to a degree between us. And then as soon as we started that first session, and then especially when I went to go record vocals with JD at his studio for the first time, we clicked just immediately. So that's definitely like a lifelong friendship that we have now.
When it came to writing the EP with him, was there anything that he kind of showed you production wise or songwriting wise that you maybe hadn't thought of during the process beforehand?
It's funny that you say that because naturally, with what I do here at Extreme Vocal Institute and being someone that's kind of known for doing everything across the spectrum and being able to teach people how to do those things, it you would think that like I'm someone that just like I know X, Y, and Z and I don't like need any help or like I don't ask for help or anything. But when it comes to writing like a truly good, great song, I always want to push myself. I always want to learn more. And there's so many people that I've had the great fortune to work with and know and befriend that have had so much more experience than I have, that when we've come together to combine what we know, it's made a lot of magic in a lot of really great ways. And JD is definitely someone that's pushed me further than I ever thought I could go on my own vocally in terms of like the way to kind of structure a vocal pattern. Even I thought I'd experimented with every kind of thing under the sun, but the way that he both helped to simplify what I'm doing and simultaneously adjust it in a really gorgeously complex way that adds just a great level of emotional energy, just raw, like pissed off anger energy, like whatever you want to look at any given moment. Like he really helped me unlock a lot of those things. And then we've collaborated here and there on different things in terms of the flow of different moments, what types of voices to use where, all the way down to pronunciation. He is definitely a very detail-oriented person, and we go in on the pronunciation for different things.
Yeah, I remember watching I think it was Motionless in White's The Making of the Disguise album documentary, and Chris was talking about like I had never had a producer talk to me about how open my mouth should be or how much to close my mouth on certain syllables, and it came from working with JD. He's like, no one's ever told me to do that before.
We had the exact same conversations and like in so many of the same ways too, using it for different purposes, but like that kind of attention to detail is not really something I've found anywhere else. So the fact that we've been able to draw out so much detail within these songs and then be able to have it translate so well in the live setting has been really, really great. And it's really helped me feel like I've leveled up a ton as a writer and a recording artist and a performer too.
And what's the songwriting process with the rest of the band? Because like you said earlier, like you got to spend some more time with them over the course of playing the shows and doing the music videos. How much of a hand do they have in the songwriting for Renaissance as well?
So that it's definitely different on a song per song basis. Like sometimes it's a song, like I said, I've written with someone outside of the band or someone like JD. Sometimes our guitarist, Dave Dunsire, will come in with a fully fleshed out song idea and we adjust little things with JD and sometimes we don't and then go in like that. Now, something we've been experimenting with is one person having like even just a riff idea and trading it around amongst the band and seeing what kind of ideas people have with it. Because the cool thing about Renaissance and everyone that we've found and brought into the band, me, other Dave, Luke, and Ron, is everybody has really strong sense of what it takes to make a great song and like what makes a complete feeling idea, not just like from the perspective of their own instrument. So now everyone's able to kind of create their own take on an idea. And all of us come at this musically and with our love for metal from so many different kinds of directions that we're able to get a really unique combination of sounds at the end of the day. And when we piece those things together, it's been really exciting. And we have been flexing those muscles amongst the four of us a lot more recently. And we've put a lot of that into an unreleased song that we've been playing on tour recently called Split Brow, which has definitely gotten a really good live reaction.
Just the title alone makes me excited.
Let's go. It's violent. I will say that. The song is definitely violent, but it's a lot of fun, and people have been having a lot of fun with it live too.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it. I know you guys are coming to my area soon. You're going to be in Wilmington. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it, but I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah, and next time. That'll be that's on our tour with A Skylit Drive that's coming out.
hmm And we're going to get to that in a little bit for sure. But I also, what you said earlier about how many different influences you guys have as a band, that was also a question that I had because I hear hardcore, I hear power metal, I hear straight up metalcore. How would you define the sound of Renaissance? If you were to show your music to somebody who's never heard you before, how would you describe it?
We've kind of coined the phrase here a little bit, and it's on some of our merch. I don't know if you saw any of this when you came out to see us. We've kind of coined the phrase brutal metalcore. Because it kind of is exactly what it is. It's like a lot more edge and a lot more intensity and aggression around kind of what metalcore was and what metalcore has become. And a lot of the mission statement that I had and that we had going into this process is trying to reimagine what this world of music is, being able to bring in a whole new level of just rage and anger and intensity and just emotion on another level. And I feel like we've done that, and I feel really good about that. And that, I know that phrase has really resonated with people. And even because you said the name a moment ago, naming the band Renaissance was in part because we're able to take so many different kinds of musical influence and bring it all into one thing. Like for me, coming into this, growing up only like knowing classical and jazz, and then falling in love with like hard rock, and being here for the birth of metalcore, and then falling in love with the deathcore side of things within that like original wave of MySpace deathcore music, and letting that wave of like the really deeply emotional metal and just punishingly intensely dark metal to kind of come together. And then where Dave, our guitarist, comes in from also some hard rock, also some metalcore, but also so much on the progressive side of things, so much on like almost like that kind of sparkly indie side of things, being able to make things beautiful. And then our other members, Luke and Ron, having some jazz background here, some other kinds of music there, and then just bringing a very new kind of sense of like intense death metal and grind and sludge and noise and just so much of that kind of raw intensity too. And I think what we're doing now is a really awesome and really pure blend of all of those things in a way that I've definitely never heard done before.
Oh yeah, I can imagine what the new stuff sounds like. I already have my hair standing up on my arms just thinking about it. This spring, like we said, you have Milwaukee Metal Fest coming up, and you have the tour with the Skylit Drive, the Road from Rockville tour. How excited are you to be going on tour with the guys in the Skylit Drive, first and foremost?
That is going to be so much fun. When I got the call that we were going to be direct support for A Skylit Drive on this tour, I was so excited. I remember growing up and seeing A Skylit Drive playing at the Palladium in Worcester when I was first starting out, and seeing them all over the place. They're one of those bands that I actually don't really like know them too well, and we haven't had too many like interactions. But I'm really excited to get to know those guys and have a really good time on this tour. And we've had a lot of other friends tour with them in the past, so I know that we have a good time to look forward to. And the package is going to be great. All the shows are going to be great. It's going to be an awesome time.
Are there any shows in markets that you guys haven't played yet that you're really looking forward to?
I am really looking forward to Toronto.
Mm.
Toronto's going to be a really fun show. Our friends in Dead Days from up in the Great White North are going to be joining us for that day. It's going to be a lot of fun. We haven't been out of the country yet as a band together, so that's going to be really cool. We have Atlanta on this show, on this tour rather, and we have a lot of very diehard fans in Atlanta, so I'm very excited for that. And then also revisiting places like in North Carolina and in lots of other states that this tour hits, and even like going through different areas near where we're from, or where I'm from, at least in Massachusetts, is going to be really cool on this tour, and getting kind of a different spin on different areas we've traveled through before, like on the tour that you came and saw us on with Deadlands.
Yeah, I think that was a great tour. You could definitely see the camaraderie between the two of you, like as bands. Especially like when you went on stage on during Deadlands' set with the Slaughterhouse cover at my show. That was so cool. Um, but yeah, I imagine the even though you're direct support, I imagine the Massachusetts shows you'll have pretty much a hometown crowd.
That's gonna be nuts. And if any, like if our release show and then like the first date of our co-headline with Deadlands was anything to say about it, like our hometown fans show up and they show up in a big way. And Massachusetts, New England crowds, they know how to move and they love their heavy music and they know exactly what to do with what I'm dishing out for them.
That's a fact. I feel like the further north you go, the more they just understand the assignment.
Well, there's a lot more pent up rage. It gets a lot colder up here for a lot longer, and no one's happy about it, myself included.
That's fair. That's why I feel I always complain about the North Carolina weather because it doesn't know what it's doing half the time. But I always imagine because I have family in Long Island, I was like, well, I could be under like 2 feet of snow right now. So I'm good.
Exactly that, literally that.
And now, being the mastermind behind the Extreme Vocal Institute, how awesome is it for you when you go on tour to kind of run into students of yours on the road? Because I know that happened once or twice at the Jacksonville show. Like, I'm pretty sure you passed the mic to someone and they just happened to be a student of yours because they sounded amazing. I was like, they gotta be a student of his.
That's the cool thing. Now that I've been doing Extreme Vocal Institute and helping people with their voices for the amount of time that I have, and since kind of coming out of COVID with it being as widely known as it became and being able to take what I know and help so many more people, we have people I've worked with or people that have learned from my videos literally everywhere we go. Every state, every city, every show we even go to attend, let alone perform. There are people that are students of mine, former students of mine, you name it. And it's been so exciting to like see so many of these people in person, especially when we're on tour. When I've been teaching on the road too, because I'll run some lessons for people that sign up with me kind of before the show starts sometimes. And that's a lot of fun too. And then even it's gotten to the point where like some of the local bands that'll be opening our shows sometimes, someone will come up and be like, oh, hey, you taught me a lesson like 4 years ago and I still use everything we talked about to this day. Or someone that like watches our YouTube channel like every single day kind of thing. Or people that use our online program, EVI Now, like on a regular basis, like people in the bands themselves that are playing with us. So that's a really exciting thing. I feel like we've been able to, with what we do here at Extreme Vocal Institute, like just lift so many people up and kind of help start a new wave of music with vocalists and front people that are able to go about what they want and like need to do with confidence and without having to hold on to like fear of like, oh, am I going to go too far? Or is this going to hurt? Because so many people go through those kinds of things. I feel really good about that.
Now, thinking about your own journey with music, because I know you've been screaming for over 15 years at this point, but starting out first, if I'm not mistaken, you were a trombone player from like a really young age.
That's right.
So, how did that impact your singing ability and your ability to project and just your confidence with singing?
It helped in a really big way in a couple of different ways. Because, well, one, like naturally, the obvious thing when you're playing a very big brass instrument is being able to manage that breath control incredibly well and under many different kinds of circumstances and for different amounts of time. Because I did different things from like jazz bands to concert bands to marching bands and like everything in between. So lots of different kinds of environments, different conditions, and needing to be really in charge of yourself in a very fine-tuned kind of way, especially depending on the type of music. And that really translated well for me pretty immediately when I started to try to piece together screaming on my own from what was available to me at the time. And then on top of that, even like within like confidence within singing, like feeling like I could come up with ideas that would make sense with everything else and understanding like relationships between different pitches, different chords. Because when I was in jazz band as a trombonist, I was the soloist and the improv soloist at that. So I would have to get up and come up with something on the fly that would not only make sense, but excite and grab people and then go right back into the pocket of everything else. And that was definitely something that helped a lot. And even now to this day, sometimes when I'm tackling choruses or verses, like things in my head write themselves more like a trombone solo first. And then I kind of translate that into what it would be like singing after the fact.
I love that. That's so cool. I was a trumpet player, so I kind of understand to a certain degree. I'm not a singer. I've never sang in my life. But yeah, I've always heard like Ronnie James Dio from Black Sabbath and the solo artist. He was a trumpet player also, and he
That's
always
right.
credited his background for his vocal ability. So to hear someone of your caliber also attest to that is really cool. But there's also a couple myths when it comes to extreme vocals that you've touched on before, like that people in classical backgrounds are taught like playing from the diaphragm or from the chest, screaming it doesn't come from that area, as you've said in a couple videos before. So did you have to kind of unlearn some things that you were taught as a trombone player when you were going into your vocal preparations?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Yes and no. I definitely had to, as you and many people online have seen, I've definitely had to pioneer a lot of different ideas and help to not erase, but work around different ideas within like the classical and other kind of worlds of voice and music that can be unintentionally a bit harmful to what we're doing either like creatively or in terms of being able to figure out how to scream like whatever direction you kind of choose. And when it came to the trombone playing, one of the big things I had to figure out over time was just the amount of exertion, because I would play the bass trombone a lot of the time too, which is just a trombone on steroids. So this gigantic instrument requiring a lot of air and a lot of pressure to be able to sustain that. And the voice is such a smaller thing and so much of a delicate instrument and doesn't require the same amount. So I definitely had to take a couple years to really come to terms with and understand how to power scale myself, especially for, if anyone knows me in real life, everyone knows that I am just a loud guy, just in nature, and that comes really naturally to me. So being able to just punch through screams and project really powerfully and loud right out the gate was something that wasn't difficult for me, but I definitely at some points took that a little too far. And I had to really figure out what the correct balancing act for that would be, and went to many different mentors and learned from so many different, like between touring artists and like other kinds of people in different worlds of music, and just studying on my own and through lots and lots of experimentation through experience on the road with other bands. I kind of came up with the balancing act that we have here and that you see me presenting here today.
Every vocalist goes through that period where they're losing their voice every night. They don't really know the proper techniques. How long did it take you, for example, to finally get to that point where you knew how what to do and how to do it, basically?
My favorite answer for that is that I'm still learning. I'm not done yet.
Right.
And something I like to talk with anyone that works with me, all my students, all my regular clients, is that the point isn't to ever like feel like you're done per se. Like you can get past the point where you're feeling kind of that nagging fear, I would say, behind what we're doing, because that was one of the main reasons I started Extreme Vocal Institute in the first place and started really coaching on this scale, was because I was noticing everybody on every tour and everybody at home trying to learn were all really worried and anxious about the same things and had the same kind of questions, and nobody really knew what to do. So with that in mind, in terms of like time expectancy, it's all about the time that you put in. It's all about being able to manage yourself and learn yourself properly. But apart from that, it's really just staying patient and staying true to the process and letting yourself progress at your own pace rather than trying to like push yourself more specifically to a specific end goal, like trying to do it really fast, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I did a lot of boxing in college and we kind of had the same principles. Like you're not don't think of it as like getting it by a certain date or something. Like trying to prepare for like competitions and stuff was a nightmare because our coach would be like, "Look, it's not about that. You got to learn the basics. It takes time. Don't worry about how long it takes." Um d Similar things to what you were saying.
Yeah, and I borrow a lot of that, honestly, like, and I'm glad you brought that up, from different like areas of athletics and different kinds of strength training and different kinds of sports. Even though I didn't grow up doing those things, I kind of fell in love with them after the fact and studied a lot of that kind of mentality behind training, and especially being able to, like with any kind of physical activity like that that's more labor intensive, committing to the movement.
Yes.
Because I can imagine you experience this too with wrestling. If you don't just fully commit to what you're doing, even if what you're about to do isn't exactly correct or doesn't yield exactly what you want, you're more likely to get hurt if you go into it with uncertainty, because then the body doesn't really know how to react to what you're asking it to do.
Absolutely. I still remember my first sparring session. And I told myself, like, my coach was telling me stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go too hard because it's 3 minutes. I don't want to gas out in the first minute and a half.
Yeah.
So I told myself, like, I was gonna take it slow. And like the great Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's exactly what happened to me.
That's awesome. Well,
My
not
entire
awesome that you got punched in the face, but I'm glad you got that takeaway from it.
Yes, absolutely. I learned a lot from that session for sure. This kind of goes into like what every vocal coach kind of says. It's like if you want to sing just like your favorite singers, if you want to sound like your favorite singers, that might not exactly be possible. I can teach you their techniques, I can teach you how they sound a certain way, but to sound like a carbon copy of them is just not possible.
Exactly. And it's funny you say that, because a big part of what we did to kind of help raise awareness of what we were doing is I have done a fair amount of videos, not copycatting, but showing how you can kind of get into a similar pocket to a lot of different artists with very unique and very memorable voices and sounds. And the point isn't necessarily to want to be a copycat vocalist, because I'm definitely very anti-copycat in that regard, but it's more so showing that the way you carry yourself and the way you position yourself when you're vocalizing and just the idea you have behind it can be enough to channel that idea in basically whatever direction you choose, and really understand that anybody can have the flexibility to go in whatever direction they want. Especially looking at screaming historically, a lot of people have been able to do a lot of great things vocalizing and having like maybe one, maybe two kinds of screams they're able to do, and they just kind of stay in that wheelhouse. But many people, I've kind of come to discover, have done that because they felt like they were never able to figure out anything else. So even though plenty of people have done incredible things with it, feeling stuck can sometimes be limiting to the ideas that you can have or the ideas you want to have. So I'm really glad to have been able to have the ability and the know-how and the time to be able to get all of this out there and help people find that flexibility for themselves. And now we have metal and heavy extreme music going in like every direction right now. It's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a fan for sure. And I love those videos that you make of like, oh, how to sing like Chester Bennington, Corey Taylor, Alex Terrible. Like, but like you said, it's not about sounding exactly like them, even though you do come close a couple times. Um, which took me by surprise, but it's the techniques behind them. And as someone who doesn't really know the intricacies of vocal music, I find it really interesting. And yeah, I just love those videos and what you do. I think it's a great way to like kind of get more eyes on Extreme Vocal Institute as well, because you have people like even if they're just going to karaoke and they want to sing a Slipknot song,
Yes, exactly.
that would be perfect.
And I have had people like come to me and even like take lessons with me one on one. They're like, I just want to be able to have fun when I'm driving to work and scream along to things. Or I've had people like, oh, I just want to be able to do my karaoke song really well. Or I've even had people say like, oh, I want to be able to like just scream along to my favorite band in the crowd when I see them and then not feel like I got hit by a train the next day with my voice, and just people wanting to have fun with it, just to express themselves, not even necessarily to do something more concrete than that. And I think that's a wonderful thing that it's kind of a very freeing experience for people, kind of regardless of what your intentions are.
Yeah, I love that. All the different scenarios, even if they don't even want to be in a band, they just want to like just sing in their car. I think that's awesome.
I mean, everyone starts somewhere. I know I was just screaming to stuff in my bedroom in my very, very, very small town, terrifying everybody before I got to the point where I kind of started to form my first bands.
Now, when it comes to those videos, like were there any vocalists that maybe somebody commented, "Oh, do this one next," and then you went to listen to some of their music and you're like, "I don't know how they sound like that." Were there any challenges like that in the making of those videos?
There have been some people where that's a really good question. There are some people where I've definitely had to think about it for more than a second, because there's some that I can get right away because you can kind of hear different things, or at least I can, within how the sound is behaving, where you can pick out different details and know how to connect A to B. But sometimes I do hear someone's voice and I have to kind of spend some time with it. And Linkin Park and the Chester Bennington sound was definitely one of those where I had to sit with it for a minute to really let myself experience it in a different way. Because when I'm just listening to music versus when I'm analyzing something to be able to like break it down vocally, those are very different experiences for me. So with a band that I've been listening to basically my whole life, like say like Linkin Park, for example, I had to kind of relearn what they sound like to a degree, as if I was finding the band for the first time, which in a way for me is really exciting and really fun, because it kind of makes me fall in love with the music and fall in love with the band all over again. Like I get to experience that newness in a way that people don't normally get to do. So it's a really fun and exciting process, and making that video and so many of the other ones I've done have been a lot of fun.
I'm also really curious because you're an insanely busy guy between like writing and teaching and doing these interviews. And when you're on the road, you're teaching and you're at the merch table and you're on stage. You talk a lot.
Yes. Yes, I do.
I'm kind of curious, especially on the road when it comes to vocal rest. Like, do you ever have time for that? Like, how do you approach that?
I have only ever really, one, had the luxury of time to, and then two, kind of needed to force myself to take more specific vocal rest. And the way that I keep myself like vocally healthy while very, very active during these kind of days, like you said, like interview, show, rehearsal, record a song, write a song, be at the merch table, teach lessons, talk with people like yourself about all of these things. It's about just knowing yourself physically and knowing your voice well enough to know how to hold yourself in kind of a zone that is going to be healthier for you and feel like you can kind of glide through the day while still feeling like you, but not really taking the day out on yourself, is how I kind of like to put it. Like for me, if I let my voice sit in a really lazy kind of like tired, like more forced spot where a lot of people tend to like speak from the bottom of their voices. For me, that would be kind of around here. And if I did that all day, every day, and tried to push down here, everything would be really tense and really sore all the time. And I would feel a lot of that same kind of fatigue. So by just bumping things up into a slightly more elevated, I sound a little sometimes too excited about what I'm talking about, but I promise it's always genuine. It helps to make my voice feel totally normal all the time. And then when it comes to the screaming element, it's the fact that I have just fully like woven screaming into my day-to-day life, because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing to the degree and the amount that I do it and dedicate if I didn't really love this. And because I do really love this art form and I love this vocal style, I incorporate it into my day as much as I can, not just in the instance that I need to be doing it or like I'm supposed to be doing it for work. I let that kind of come and go. Or some days, like I might not scream at all because the need to doesn't really come up. Just like how some days if you're just like chilling at home and you're on your own or just with a couple people in the house, you don't necessarily need to like raise your voice too much because the opportunity just doesn't come up. Mm-hmm. Kind of the same thing. Screaming is just an extension of myself. And for anyone doing it, screaming is just an extension of themselves. So if you just treat it as such, the day and being able to manage all these things, although insanely busy it does keep me, it's definitely manageable.
That's really interesting, and I'm so glad you mentioned how just even your everyday talking voice sometimes having it elevated helps because I've heard Davey Havoc from AFI say something along those lines, and he already has a pretty naturally high voice anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when he started taking vocal lessons, I think during COVID, and he said that like one thing he picked up on was like even though he's not singing, talking still has a toll on like your length of being able to sing. And he talked about having like just raising his voice when talking because the having I have a lower voice and I tend to do what you just exemplified.
Yeah.
And even when I have days where I don't talk that much, I can feel my voice getting tired at like the later the day goes, just because that's where my voice kind of just naturally rests. And I'm like, man, maybe I should start doing that, even though I'm not a singer.
Well, I've worked with so many types of people that aren't even vocalists. I've had like army drill instructors, I've had actors, I've had comedians, I've had voice actors, from like TV to like YouTube to video games. Like there's a lot of applications for this. Like even just public speaking at all. Like someone that needs to make sound and talk for a living, public speaking, being someone that like operates telephones for people. Like it's all over the spectrum. So these kinds of things and the way I teach and the way I treat screaming and help other people to do for themselves is really based on how to just have a healthier relationship with your voice overall. Have a healthier relationship with yourself overall, and be able to embrace all of these things and wield them when you need to, and understand that these are things that are available to you and that belong to you all the time, not just when you need them.
Now, before I let you go, we have arrived to my favorite part of every interview. I have a speed round for you.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
So I've got 5 questions. You can elaborate as much as you want. The speed part of this isn't that strict. I don't have a timer. But the first question, your favorite song to play live.
Right now, Split Brow.
Your most embarrassing moment on stage.
Probably like forgetting a lyric, but like only like one lyric, and then in my head like it feels like a year has gone by, but in reality it's been like maybe a fraction of a second, and like just that moment where you might catch my eyes just as I'm noticing I forgot something, but then slipping right back in. I haven't had nearly as many embarrassing, knock on wood, moments so far, although our guitarist Dave did slip during our Denver show with Escape the Fate recently, and we memed that pretty hard. We memed that pretty hard.
It's hard not to.
They're not your friends, and you don't love them if you don't make fun of them and meme them and just like have a good time like that sometimes.
Absolutely. Your dream tour lineup.
Dream tour lineup. I would love to tour with even the bands that we've worked with. I'd love to tour with the guys in Motionless in White, guys like We Came as Romans that we've done so much with. I'd love to tour with bands that we don't know. I'd love to tour with Bring Me the Horizon. I'd love to tour with Slipknot. I'd love to tour. I'd love to tour with Cannibal Corpse. I'd love to go all over the spectrum with different things.
Your favorite thing to do outside of music.
Honestly, spend time outside. Like regardless of what it is, I could be sitting and watching a sunset or walking around with family, just even on my own, just in the sun. Anything outside really is one of it's like my favorite stuff, especially now because this job requires being indoors so much. Any outside time is great.
And the last question, this one's always my favorite one. The song you wrote that means the most to you.
Ooh, having to narrow that down to one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a difficult task.
There are a few songs that exist now that I'm not allowed to talk about just yet. But since we are here in celebration also of our EP, Born from the End, I would say everything that I put into the song Labor of Hate and just how to be able to move past those moments where people are so actively trying to get in your way. Because even though like I'm really happy to be here now and I'm so stoked to be doing all the stuff we're doing, both with my vocal coaching and the band, but it has been an uphill battle to be able to get to where we are today. And there's been a lot of years and a lot of grinding and a lot of pain sometimes behind the scenes that people haven't seen. And being able to put that into what Labor of Hate is and really make that, especially that first statement, because that's the first song we released from the EP, to just say, we are here and we're here to stay. And there's nothing you can do about it. Really meant a lot to me. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and say it's meant a lot to them as well.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that was the closer for your set when you played.
Oh yeah, that one has a built-in wall of death at the end because of that breakdown.
Yes. It's tailor-made for that stuff for sure.
Oh yeah, we have so much fun doing that, and I'm really excited to get out and play these songs again soon.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see you guys live again. I know I can't be at the next one, but hopefully there's going to be another chance in the near future.
Next time, absolutely, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there too.
Oh, thank you so much. For this go around, this was everything that I had prepared for you. Was there any closing message to any Renaissance or Extreme Vocal Institute fans watching?
I guess parting words for anyone that knows me is I guess be patient with yourself and be kind with yourself and let yourself feel things. And I think that applies both to yourself as an artist, if you're someone that wants to be a vocalist and want to put yourself out there. And it also comes down to learning how to do it too, kind of all over the spectrum. So let yourself experience these things, let yourself feel, let yourself build and grow, and give yourself the time that you need to really get to where you want to be.
Well, thank you again so much for the time. This has been a lot of fun. I love your music, what you're doing, so I can't wait to hear more of it. I
Hell
can't
yeah.
wait to see you again.
And thank you, Chris, for having me today. This has been a pleasure.
Oh, for sure. And until the next interview, stay tuned, stay scared, and I'll catch you later.
Hell yeah.